What could possibly connect a missing girl, whose body was rumored to have been hidden in a kebab shop, with 9 hikers found frozen solid with inexplicable injuries? They are 2 of history's most terrifying cold cases, where the only thing more bizarre than the crime is the evidence left behind. Enter if you dare. Exit if you can. And don't forget, if these tales intrigue or disturb you, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to the Diabolist's Lab on YouTube and TikTok. Now, let's begin. Some stories aren't just chilling. They're fundamentally illogical. They leave behind a trail of clues that spiral into more questions than answers, haunting everyone who comes near them for decades. These are the cases where the evidence itself becomes the enigma, pointing to events so bizarre they feel like they shouldn't be possible. The story of a teenage girl whose body seems to have vanished from the face of the earth, and the story of 9 hikers found with impossible, violent injuries are 2 of those puzzles. The Girl Who Vanished. Our first story begins in the English seaside town of Blackpool, a place known for bright lights and summer crowds. But on November 1st, 2003, a shadow fell over the town when 14-year-old Charlene Downs went out for the evening and simply never came back. The initial hope that she was just a teenager who had missed her curfew quickly soured into panic. A massive missing person investigation was launched, one of the largest in the history of Lancashire police, as they searched for any sign of the girl. But as weeks turned into months with absolutely no trace of her, investigators were forced to accept a grim new reality. Charlene had been murdered. The case that followed would rip the cover off a dark secret in the town, as police came to believe Charlene was a victim of a widespread child sexual exploitation ring. The investigation eventually took a grotesque and infamous turn, zeroing in on a local kebab shop. In 2007, 4 years after Charlene vanished, the shop's owner and his business partner were put on trial, accused not only of her murder, but of the disposal of her body in an unthinkable way. The prosecution presented a horrifying theory that captured national headlines: that after being murdered, Charlene's body was dismembered, and her remains were put into the kebabs. This stomach-turning claim was based on covert recordings where the 2 men were allegedly heard making jokes about the act. A piece of evidence so macabre it seemed to promise a conviction, but the case against them crumbled. The covert recordings, the cornerstone of the prosecution's argument, were fiercely contested. The trial ultimately collapsed when the jury failed to reach a verdict. A planned retrial was later abandoned entirely after the judge presiding over the case raised grave concerns about the reliability of the police evidence and the methods used to obtain it. The men were acquitted and walked free. To this day, Charlene Downs has never been found, leaving her family trapped in a nightmare without justice, and a £100,000 reward for information remains unclaimed. A colder, stranger mystery. Decades earlier, and half a world away, another mystery unfolded in the vast, remote Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union. In February 1959, 9 highly experienced ski hikers, all students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov, were on a formidable expedition to a peak named Otorten. They were skilled, well-equipped, and prepared for the brutal conditions. When they failed to send a telegram signaling their return, a search was launched. What the search party found on the slopes of a mountain, ominously named Kholat Syakhl, or Dead Mountain, was not a sign of life, but the beginning of a terrifying enigma. The group's tent was found abandoned, but it wasn't just empty. It was bizarrely sliced and ripped open from the inside. It was a clear sign that whatever happened, the occupants had been desperate to escape. Yet all of their valuable gear, their winter clothes, their supplies, their shoes, was left neatly behind. Outside the tent, a trail of footprints descended the slope, some from stockinged feet, some from bare feet, heading straight into the freezing darkness where temperatures would have been life-threatening within minutes. Why would 9 seasoned mountaineers flee their only shelter so violently, without the gear they knew they needed to survive? The first bodies, including Dyatlov's, were found scattered down the slope, and their deaths were officially attributed to hypothermia. It was a tragedy, but it seemed explainable. Perhaps they panicked and fled, succumbing to the elements. But that simple illusion was shattered 2 months later, when the last 4 hikers were finally located, buried under feet of snow in a nearby ravine. They had sustained injuries so catastrophic, a crushed skull, severe chest fractures, that a medical examiner compared the force required to that of a car crash. Incredibly, their bodies showed almost no external wounds. The scene grew even stranger still. One of the hikers, Lyudmila Dubinina, was found with her tongue and eyes missing. To top it all off, some of their clothing was found to be inexplicably radioactive. Faced with this collection of impossible clues, the official Soviet investigation was stumped, unable to find any rational explanation for the hikers' flight, their bizarre injuries, the missing tongue, or the radiation. They abruptly closed the case. The official cause of death was attributed to a compelling natural force, a vague conclusion that explained nothing. The files were sealed and classified for decades. In the years since, countless theories have emerged, ranging from a rare slab avalanche that could crush a person without leaving surface wounds, to secret military weapons tests gone wrong. But not one theory has ever been able to satisfyingly explain all of the bizarre and contradictory evidence left behind on that frozen mountain. Darkness doesn't always hide. Sometimes it invites you in. From the nightmarish void of a Blackpool street to the frozen, silent slopes of the Ural Mountains, these 2 cases are tied together by a terrifying thread, evidence that actively defies logic. In one, a body vanishes so completely it gives birth to theories of unthinkable acts in the back of a fast food joint. In the other, bodies are discovered with injuries so violent, yet so impossibly precise, they challenge our very understanding of the natural world. Both Charlene Downs and the Dyatlov hikers were victims of something truly monstrous. But without real answers, their stories have become modern legends, horrifying puzzles where every new piece only seems to create a more disturbing picture. The theories in these cases are vast and deeply complex, and no conclusion has ever satisfied everyone. They are a stark reminder that sometimes the deepest mysteries aren't about who did it, but about what on earth could have possibly happened. What do you think happened to Charlene Downs? And what force, natural or otherwise, could possibly explain the fate of the Dyatlov hikers? If this video left you questioning everything, show your support with a like and drop a comment with your theory. Subscribe to the Diabolists Lab on YouTube and TikTok, and if our work speaks to you, consider fueling the fire through the Ko-fi link in the description. And remember, keep your eyes open and your doors locked. Evil waits for those who open the wrong one.